Stripes is certainly very sweet. This is the first segment in the 8th episode of the very first episode of The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. This is directed by Carl Gears, and this aired originally in February 1991. This predated me by 13 months. And in this episode, they're all giving Tigger a bath for whatever reason, and when he emerges from the bath, he is so clean that he has lost his stripes. And instead of coming to the conclusion that maybe his stripes were washed off, they realise that maybe he isn't a Tigger after all. And Tigger tries to then work out what he is, primarily thinking that maybe he is a rabbit, and he begins to behave like rabbit, and then he thinks maybe, well, I'm a bear, and I'm this character, and he starts to take on the personalities of other characters to try and find out who he is. And I'll explain with a spoiler in a moment kind of what happens and what the main message of the narrative was, but I really found it very sweet. Tigger is often a character who goes to either ends. Sometimes he is very overconfident and full of himself, and sometimes he feels very vulnerable and actually feels like if the wind blew the wrong way it would crumble him. And that's kind of the impression we get here. Without his stripes, he feels not so much exposed, but more uncertain of who he is. From an animation perspective, I think he looks great. Very peculiar seeing him without his stripes. He kind of looks like Thomas O'Malley in a... If you want to see it, you can see that he looks like Thomas O'Malley. I thought he looked really interesting, but in a way it doesn't look that weird either. He looks kind of normal without his stripes. But I really liked it. I thought it was very good. Eeyore's role in this was brilliant as well, which I will explain more about in a moment. Stripes is definitely a really strong segment. So spoilers from now, I'm going to explain what happens. Eeyore keeps calling Tigger Tigger, and he's the only one who calls him Tigger because everybody else thinks that he can't possibly be a Tigger anymore. And Tigger says, well, but I don't look like a Tigger. I can't be a Tigger. But he realises that actually on the inside he still feels the same. Just because he hasn't got his stripes, he feels the same way. And I think there's a lovely message there about it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. You're still the same person on the inside. And obviously young children watching this can find some comfort in this. Let's say a child breaks their arm, or they have some disfiguration or some scarring or something that makes them look different to the way they looked before, or even glasses, there's something that changes their appearance. It's nice to be reminded that they're still the same person on the inside. Of course, you could argue that it took a different direction, or it could have taken a different direction by showing that when you look different on the outside, you may perceive yourself differently. It's the whole argument of if you lost a limb, would you still be the same person? I feel like I would probably be quite bitter to the world if I lost a limb in like a tragic accident or something. So I feel like I would actually be a different person. But a lot of people argue that regardless of that, you're the same. And I think I'm philosophizing a little bit too much about this Winnie the Pooh episode, but there are a lot of things, if you wanted to look into it, you could do. It's a very, very detailed episode that I think for an adult viewer, you could get a lot out of it. But of course, for young children, it's fun, it's different, it's heartfelt. Stripes is definitely a very strong segment.